Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rulebook Room. I'm Har. Today's case is Brajender Singh versus State of Madhya Pradesh. And today, I want to do something slightly different. I want to build the legal reasoning step by step, the way you would actually think about in an exam or in practice. Because this case looks simple, but if you don't structure it properly, it becomes very confusing. Imagine this situation. A woman gets married, but immediately after marriage, her husband leaves her. They never really live together. They don't function as a couple. They don't share a household. Now, years pass, decades in fact. At some point, she decides to adopt a child. Now, here is the question. Should the law treat her as a married woman or should the law treat her as someone effectively unmarried? Because depending on the answer, the adoption will either be valid or completely void. And that is what exactly this case is about. Before we even touch the facts, we need to be very clear about the statutory scheme. We are dealing with Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act 1956. Now, adoption under this act is not just about intention. It is strictly regulated legal act. There are three key provisions you should always connect. Section 6, providing for requisites of a valid adoption. Section 8, providing for capacity of a female Hindu, and Section 11 providing for conditions for valid adoption. Section 8 answers one simple question: who is legally capable of adopting? Now, for a Hindu female, the law imposes three conditions. She must be a major, she must be of sound mind, and she should also satisfy conditions provided under Section 6. Section 8, Clause C is the heart of the case. It says the woman can adopt only if she is not married, or if married, she falls into specific exceptions. Either she is a widow, or divorced, or her husband has renounced the world, or her husband is not a Hindu anymore, or husband is of unsound mind. This list is exhaustive, not illustrative, not flexible, exhaustive, which means if you are a married woman and none of these exceptions apply, you simply do not have the legal capacity to adopt. Now let's place the facts into this legal framework. We have Mishri Bai. She is married in 1948, but immediately after marriage, her husband leaves her. There is no marital relationship. She lives separately for decades. In practical terms, this is not a functioning marriage. Despite all this, there is no divorce, no court decree, no legal dissolution of marriage. So, legally, the marriage still exists. In 1970, she adopts Brajender Singh, and this is not a sham arrangement. He lives with her, he takes care of her. She even executes a will in his favor. The dispute is not about family, it's about land, under the land ceiling law. If Brajender Singh is her validly adopted son, then more land can be retained. If not, excess land goes to the state. So suddenly, everything depends on, is the adoption valid? Now we can frame the issue properly. Can a woman who is legally married but factually abandoned adopt a child under Section 8, Clause C? Supreme Court gives a very strict answer. It says no, and the reasoning is extremely important. The court draws a sharp distinction: a divorced woman versus a woman living like a divorced woman. And it says these two are not the same. Why? Because law operates on legal status, not emotional or social conditions. So even if the marriage is dead in reality, the spouses living separately for decades, still, unless there is a legal divorce, the woman remains a married woman. Now apply the rule mechanically. Is she unmarried? No. Is she divorced? No. Is she widow at the time of adoption? No. So she does not fall within Section 8, Clause C, which results in that she has no capacity to adopt, and therefore the adoption is void. This is very important for exams. A void adoption is treated as if it never existed. So legally, Brajender Singh is not her son. Now comes the uncomfortable part, because in reality, he was her son in every practical sense. He cared for her, she depended on him. But law says this is irrelevant. Why such strictness? The court hints at something deeper here. Adoption is not just a personal arrangement, it affects succession, property rights, rights of third parties. So the law insists on certainty and formal compliance. In some areas, courts are flexible. For example, Badshah versus Urmila Badshah Godse. Court used purposive interpretation to protect a woman. But here, the court refuses flexibility. Why? Because the adoption changes legal status permanently. The court holds adoption is invalid, there is no joint family, and land ceiling benefits are denied. However, the will still operates. So he retains some property, but not through adoption. Let me slow this down and put it in full capacity. What you should remember as a law student. First, Section 8 Clause C strictly governs capacity of a female Hindu to adopt. Second, a subsisting marriage automatically restricts that capacity. Third, separation or abandonment has no legal effect. Fourth, capacity is a condition precedent. And fifth, lack of capacity makes adoption void ab initio. This case is not really about adoption. It is about something deeper, whether law should recognize lived reality or only formal legal status. And here the court clearly chooses formal legal status. So the next time you see a problem involving adoption, don't just look at intention, don't just look at conduct. Always start with capacity. Because if capacity fails, everything else becomes irrelevant. And that's Brajender Singh versus State of MP. See you in next one. Till then, bye.